Hello, everybody, and welcome to this latest edition of News Talk. My name is Stephanie Marston. I'm the head of educational content here at Perfectly Spoken, and I'm joined by David. Hi, David.
Hello, I'm David De Jager. I'm the managing director of Perfectly Spoken, and today Stephanie and I are going to have our usual Monday evening, afternoon chat about three topics in the news.
Absolutely. Now, if you've joined us before, you'll know that the idea of this is to increase your vocabulary. So please do take part. Type your comments in your chat. We'll be asking you some questions as we move through the stories. So, David, shall we have a look at the three stories that are going to feature in today's episode?
Absolutely. So the first one is about Meta, is the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, and they have opened their first ever retail store in.
And that's what we're asking you. Do you know which country? What do you think? You could probably make an educated guess. So, which country do you think Meta have opened their first ever retail store? Now, remember that Meta is the parent company of Facebook. So,
Instagram.
big
WhatsApp.
Instagram, absolutely. All these popular social media tools. So, which country do you think they have opened their first retail store? That's going to be the first story.
And I think somebody has already come up with the answer. Yes, of course, it's the USA. And Amelia, you're quite right. And it's in California on their campus there. The
Well done,
second
Amelia.
article we're going to be talking about is a very possibly the most famous male actor there is on the planet at the moment. And he was in Cannes, in the film festival in Cannes, to promote his new film, Top Gun Maverick. And we wonder, could you possibly guess his name?
Yes, so this is in picture two, where you can see a picture of him smiling at the cameras, looking very handsome there, promoting his film. Who is this? And I think you've got it again, Amelia. Very well done. Of course, we're talking about Tom Cruise. Well done, Renata, as well.
As well, yes, yes. And then the third item, we're going to be talking about a surreal painting, which was sold for over $67 million in New York. And we wonder if you can guess the name of the artist. Um, a surreal painter, a very,
Yes.
very famous one again.
Super famous surrealist artist. Who do you think we could be talking about? Has recently sold a painting, or a painting of his has been sold at a New York auction. Who could we be talking about in story three? If you think you know, or have a guess, why not have a guess? Who could this be? A super famous artist? Any ideas?
Spanish.
If not, we will find out in story three.
Okay, good idea.
Okay, let's get started then. So, our first story, as we said, we're going to be talking about Meta opening their first ever retail store in California. So, well done for all of you who guessed is America. So, this is the news, the story making headlines that Facebook owner Meta has opened its first physical retail store in California. And inside the store, customers can test out Meta's virtual reality headsets as well as their smart glasses. And feedback has been very positive. So far, first impressions of this augmented reality have exceeded expectations. The customers have been very, very positive and enthusiastic in their feedback.
And I think this is a really interesting story because normally what you have are stores that are moving from the high street to go online, whereas Facebook, Meta, they're doing the opposite, aren't they? They've opened this physical store. And here are some of the things that you can find in that store.
Absolutely. So I wonder, to all of you joining us, what do you think about this? Would you be interested in trying out a virtual reality headset? Or maybe you already have. How was the experience for you? So why don't you type us a message? Let us know, use the chat. What was your experience if you have tried it out? And if you haven't, would you be interested in this?
Yeah, and I think this what we've got there are two really interesting terms in English, aren't there? We've got virtual reality, and obviously the headsets, and then we've got augmented reality. So I wonder what the difference is.
Well, Amelia's asking the question, what does augmented mean? Augmented meaning enhanced, raised, increased.
So you have a real world, and then you make that world different, bigger in some way, but it's still the real world. Whereas the virtual reality is, it could be anything, can't
Could
it?
be anything, yes. So if
It
you want
could
to
be.
join in, I can see more people joining us saying good evening, hello to everybody. Yeah, of course, virtual can be anything. That's the idea of it. It's marrying these two aspects together. Now, shall we have a look at the definitions, David?
Yeah, I mean, can we just look at there's you've got the third word as well, smart
Yeah.
glasses. Yeah, I mean, like Amelia's saying, are they like 3D glasses for TV? And I think that's possibly a really good example, isn't it? Because the critical word here is smart, and smart, of course, in normal words means clever, intelligent. Yeah, Stephanie, as you know, is very smart. But when we're talking about smart glasses, then it's really about how we're using technology to enhance, to improve the experience with that. And of course, you can get smart glasses, smart cars, smart televisions. So it's a really useful adjective to use, isn't it?
And of course, the most common way we're using that at the moment is probably with smartphones. I imagine a lot of you joining us today have smartphones and think why we would refer to a phone as a smartphone as opposed to an ordinary phone. It's because of all the extra features that it offers. So smart glasses, for example, will have these added additional features that will allow you to do lots of things at the same time.
And I love, thank you, Renata, for your contribution. Renata's a little bit terrified about how our future might
Mm.
look. I think, yeah, for some of us, especially when you're a little bit older, yeah, it's going to be quite a challenge, but possibly a very positive one as well.
Absolutely. And of course, companies like Meta are always pushing the boundaries, aren't they? Sort of challenging what our expectations are and pushing things forward. It doesn't necessarily mean that all of these will come onto the market and be successful, but very interesting to experience them, I imagine.
Indeed, indeed. And hello, if you're joining us, just joining us, it's Stephanie and I, and we are discussing three major stories in the news to help you improve your English, and so give you the opportunity to listen to natural English and natural stories that are happening in the news now.
Absolutely. And the idea is that you listen to us talking and you can hear the vocabulary used in context. And that, of course, is the best way to see how to correctly use new words and expressions.
So shall we have a look at the
So let's
definition, as you say?
let's move on then. So here we have the definitions of these expressions. So our first expression, we had virtual reality headsets. Now, these are something you wear on your head and face. Remember, it's also covering your face, which allows you to experience computer generated images and sounds.
And then we've got, as we were talking, smart glasses. So these are glasses spectacles, which allow you to access the internet.
And finally, we had augmented reality. So this is this combination of computer generated images and sounds with a real world view. And Amelia noting there that, of course, virtual reality headsets extremely popular with teenagers who game for their gaming. Absolutely.
Yes, very good point.
Okay, let's move on then to story number 2.
So, as I think most of you managed to guess, yeah, Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise was in Cannes at the film festival in Cannes to promote the new movie Top Gun Maverick. So this story about Tom Cruise, one of the most famous actors in the world, was at the Cannes Film Festival to promote the film Maverick, Top Gun, where he signed autographs, he posed for selfies. In the photograph, he's posing and somebody's taking a photo of him. He posed for selfies and he walked down the red carpet with the producer, the screenwriter, and other members of the cast, other members of the film that he worked with. So I've got a little quiz for you and for
Ooh.
Stephanie. Stephanie, did you watch the first Top Gun?
Of course, I've watched the first Top Gun. I absolutely have. Yes, I watched it. Quite a long time ago now. I
I
probably
wonder. I was going to ask, does anybody know what year was the first Top Gun movie? I wonder
can
if
you help me
anybody's
out here? So David's giving me a quiz if you're just joining. Anyone got any ideas? I'm
about.
thinking it's going to be somewhere in the 80s.
Oh, I think you're
Um,
right. Yeah,
somewhere,
well,
what do we
we're
think?
yeah,
Amelia's saying
Amelia's
88.
quite close, Amelia. Anybody else got any ideas?
I'd go a bit lower, I think.
Of course, and it really cemented him as a star. Oh, we're getting closer and
Pericles,
closer.
well done.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, it was 1986.
86. Well, we were very close there.
1986.
Thank you, everybody, for helping me out there. We got the right decade, didn't we?
Oh, and just another question. Do you know when he was born? What year was Tom Cruise
Ooh.
born?
Okay, I'm going to have to ask for help here as well. How old is Tom Cruise, do we think? Yep, Stalin, you're right.
Well,
35
actually,
years ago.
36 years ago now, isn't it? Yes,
Goodness.
yes, yes.
Um, yes, I wonder if anybody else has also seen the first Top Gun. So how old do we think Tom Cruise is? Any ideas, anybody?
Because he looks very handsome, as somebody said, and
Yes.
he always looks very young, doesn't he?
And
Um,
very athletic. I mean, I've read that he often does the majority of his own stunts. He's performing when he, for example, in Mission Impossible, it's an action film, and he's doing all his own stunts. So certainly
yeah,
very fit and active.
yeah,
Renata thinks over 50.
he
Yes,
certainly is.
I agree with you, Renata.
Yes. So, he was actually born. He was born on July the 3rd, 1962. So,
Oh, Pericles was very close. They guessed 65. Very close there. Well done.
yes. And do you know, there's a couple of interesting things about Tom Cruise. Do we think that he has ever won an Oscar?
No. I'm going to say no
You,
because you've asked the question. I
you,
might have said yes, but because you're asking me, I'm thinking possibly not.
you're quite right. He's never won an Oscar. He's had 3 Oscar nominations, but he's never won. He's also had 3 marriages, and he's got 3 children, I believe. Anyway, so he was in Cannes to promote the movie, which was postponed. It was put back for 2 years because of COVID, and then so he was out there with his fans signing autographs. Yeah, of course, that's when nobody's ever asked me for my autograph. Have they asked you,
Not
Steph?
yet, David.
No. Not yet. So he was signing the autographs. He was walking down the red carpet, and we say the red carpet because that's synonymous with a really important event when you release a movie and all the movie stars stand on the red carpet, and then we had. Sorry, Stephanie. And then we had the screenwriter. So, and the screenwriter, of course, writes the story for the film. And another word that we had there was, the producer and the director. These are really important words when we're talking about films. And I always think the director is the person who is in charge of the film, in charge of the actors, while the producer is the money man, the man or woman, and the producers make sure the film actually happens, and financially and otherwise. So we've got the screenwriter, and these were the people that he was on the red carpet with, along with the cast members, which I believe included actors like
John
John
Hamm,
Hamm.
Jennifer Connelly.
So do you think you'll be going to see?
Definitely.
It's got very good
Definitely.
reviews, hasn't it, I think?
And David, we've just got a request for your autograph. The first one. Well done, Renata.
Thank you. Thank you. I will send it to you, Renata.
And a lot of surprise as well. Amelia expressing surprise as to the age of Tom Cruise. I have to admit, I agree with you there, Amelia. I was very surprised. And just to mention that nice expression, the red carpet, because of course we can also use it in different situations. For example, I rolled out the red carpet for my guests, meaning I want them to feel like celebrities, to feel special when they come and visit my home.
Indeed, very good.
Shall we have a look at the definitions then, David?
Yes, please. So, as we said, so an autograph is the signature, it's the name in writing of normally of a famous person. And the verb there, of course, you sign an autograph.
Absolutely. And a second word we had was a screenwriter. And again, looking at these two parts of the word separately really helps you to understand what this word means. Literally, the person who writes the script for a film or for a TV show.
And then we had the cast members. Cast, right? So these are the in this case, in a film, those are the actors, the other actors that form the complete cast, actually, of the actors on in the film. And you can also have those. They would also be the actors in a play at the theatre. You would have the cast members there as well.
Absolutely. And I wonder if anyone else plans to go and watch the film when it's released in your country. So I
Yes.
definitely want to, David. Do you plan
Yes,
to?
I can't wait. Yes. And I wonder, have we got any actors who've been members of any casts in the theatre, for example, or even when you were a child, were you a member of a cast in a school play?
Interesting to find out. And again, do type in your comments. Use the chat box, use the comment box to type in. It's a really fun way of taking part, practicing your English, and joining in with our discussion today. Okay, let's move on then to our third and final story today. And this is a story all about art and records. So, at the beginning, we asked you to guess which artist we are talking about. David gave you some clues. So, very well done if you were thinking of Picasso, because that is, in fact, the correct answer. And this story, this is the news that a painting from 1932, a Picasso surreal painting called Nude Reclining Woman, sold for an amazing $67.5 million at an auction in New York. Now, this is interesting because it comes just 1 week after Andy Warhol's 1964 portrait of Marilyn Monroe sold for $195 million. I have to repeat that again. That's $195 million. And if you're surprised, as I was, this is because it's a record. So it's a record for a work by an American artist at auction. So I wonder, what do we think about this story, David?
I think it's incredible. And so um, if we're looking at the vocabulary there, we've got a portrait and a painting. Shall we look at the difference between those two words?
Absolutely. Does anyone have any ideas? A portrait and a painting. I referred to the picture that, if you're joining us live, that you can see here is a portrait, nude reclining woman, and we talked about Andy Warhol's portrait of Marilyn Monroe. So what do you think a portrait could be of? Amelia's saying it's crazy. The price
It
is
is.
absolutely. I mean, a portrait, of course, is of a person.
And
So
I think it's normally, so a portrait normally is the head or the head and shoulders, isn't it?
absolutely. Of course, different artists have different styles and interpret this in different ways. Absolutely, Amelia, it's about a person. Of course, very different styles. The two artists I mentioned there, we have Picasso, a surrealist painter, and I mentioned Andy Warhol as well, of course, famous for his pop art.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think, we said it was a surreal painting. So this surrealism, this cultural movement, and I wonder if anybody knows the most famous surrealist artist that we would say today. Any ideas? A
Possibly
clue.
another person from Spain,
Indeed,
I
indeed.
guess. I wonder if
Yeah.
anyone else is thinking the same as me. Um, David's got lots of quiz questions today. So if anyone feels like helping me, I think I know this one, but if you feel like helping me out, that would be fantastic. Type a message in the comments box. Very easy to chat to us. Welcome if you've just joined. We're discussing stories in the news at the moment. So these are stories making headlines.
And we were talking about this specific auction, and then of course, generally today these very important paintings, they are sold at auction.
Absolutely. And of course, an auction, very important word. It's been mentioned a lot so far today. And an auction, when people make offers, so there's not one fixed price, people are making offers for how much they want to pay or can afford to pay for something. Bit of a difference between how much you can afford and how much you want to pay, possibly, but you've got your budget in mind. Amelia's saying she's got no idea. I'd guess Dali.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Salvador Dali is possibly the most famous surrealist painter that there was. Um, so yeah, and then we were talking about the auction, and then you get the auction houses. These are the who sell these paintings, like Sotheby's and Christie's are where these paintings tend to be sold. Um, I do. I won't ask Stephanie, or maybe I will, but you know that the actual highest price ever for a painting, how many millions of dollars do you think was paid? I wonder if anybody can have a
Okay,
guess
yeah,
at
let's
that
have a guess here.
highest price for a painting ever sold.
So remember, I said at the beginning of this story that 195 million was a record for an American artist at auction, but that does suggest that someone's paid more for a non-American artist. Of course, lots of super famous artists.
Yeah.
Amelia's guessing
Yeah. 108 million. Well, Well, actually, it's almost 4 times that amount. Apparently, it was $430 million for Salvator Mundi by Leonardo da Vinci. And that I don't remember what year it was. But apparently, possibly the most famous painting in the world today, the most famous portrait would be the Mona Lisa. And the estimated value at an auction of the Mona Lisa is something like $900 million.
Incredible. Incredible. I mean, it's crazy prices, really, isn't it? We can't even imagine what that is. So using the word record there, thinking about the most that something, the largest amount of money that has been paid for something. So shall we have a look at the definitions, David?
Yes, please.
So, of course, we were talking about a portrait. Well, as we said, it's a painting of another person, typically a headshot. The painting of another person is a portrait.
Yeah, but you could have, as somebody pointed out, you could have a portrait of an animal as well. Why not?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And an auction, as we say, so it's a public sale where the person who offers the most money buys the item for sale. So you are competing against other people who want to buy that item.
And finally, we have a record. A record is the highest amount ever. So I said that Andy Warhol's 1964 portrait was sold for a record $195 million.
And just one little final little story that you might be interested in. Apparently, somebody bought probably 65 years ago, they bought at an auction a painting for £45. And then they sold it at auction 60 years later in 2017 for £341
Wow.
million.
Wow.
And the reason was when it was first sold, they couldn't prove who the artist was. By the time of the second auction, they proved it was by Leonardo da Vinci, and so it sold for £341 million. So,
Amazing story there.
so it's always worth maybe investing in painting.
Absolutely. So that brings us to the end of our news talk here.
And thank you ever so much for joining us. As you know, we absolutely believe listening, reading to real news stories is a great way to help improve your English. And what we've got on our website is we've got lots and lots and lots of very short, mainly video news stories with accompanying exercises to help you improve your English, including the 3 that we've talked about today.
Absolutely. So please join us. Here's our web address, www.perfectlyspoken.com. And a big thank you to all of you for taking part and making this session so interesting today. A really big thank you to all of you. As David said, we'll be here live, same time next week. Okay, thank you, everybody. See you next time.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.